I will say that we are prepared for a very serious conversation on that side. We have laid our position and we are sticking to our position. I don't think that I have to repeat it. We are also on offensive, which makes our situation and position stronger. A lot depends now what is going to happen in the coming weeks and months.
Has President Putin spoken to President Trump since Mr. Trump took office?
I don't think so.
Is Mr. Trump putting pressure on Moscow?
Mr. Trump is only 2 weeks, as I understand, in White House. He makes a very different statement on all subjects. One day he is imposing taxes, the next day he is canceling taxes. Yesterday he was speaking about Middle East and said about resettlement of Palestinian people, which is absolutely unacceptable for the countries where he would like to resettle, and so on. So that's.
Are you disappointed in what President Trump has done in his first few weeks in office?
No. It is not about any assessment of what Mr. Trump is doing. I can say that Mr. Trump, together with London, Washington, are the authors of Ukrainian campaign, Ukrainian war, and they are fueling it. And of course, we are very cautious about doing business, about doing serious things now with the American administration, because we don't understand which direction they will go.
Were you expecting Mr. Trump to ease the pressure on Russia rather than upping the sanctions as he has done?
From what we have heard and what we know, when Mr. Trump was for the first time in the White House, he originated a large number of sanctions against Russia.
You don't see him as a friend, as a good development in terms of Russia's position?
No. That is clearly no, because what we have heard about peace through force, about necessity to impose more sanctions on Russia, so it will be more flexible, and all of that, that of course probably not the line of questioning in this case, but so far, as I have said, we haven't heard. So we are hearing different things and a lot of speculation all around that, so it is too early to say what will be the outcome of that.
He has promised to bring peace within just a few months.
Initially it was in 1 day, then it was a 100 day. Now it is still, I guess, at the very preliminary stage of a conversation.
You don't think he has the power to bring peace in just a few months, even if he wants to?
It is not sufficient to have only powers. It is necessary to have the structures that are obeying to the president, that are believing to what they are doing, that are good negotiators. And of course, the realities should be taken into account, because many people are now, they are just getting information from media, from different sources, and really they are not aware of the situation on the ground in Ukraine itself, and do not understand. The main thing is that not many are realizing the root causes of the conflict, and without eliminating the root causes of the conflict, nothing is possible.
The terms that you've described as the sort of terms on which you would be prepared to do peace sound very much like your original demands from 3 years ago.
We are prepared, yes, to negotiate on the basis of the draft agreement that has been on the table in Istanbul in 2002. Well, the main points are that Ukraine should be a neutral, non-nuclear state, of course. All root grounds of the conflict, as I have said, should be eliminated. That impose discrimination of Russians over there, of course, it's one of the main points. And all conditions, also territorial realities, are in view, but also there is a question of legitimacy of Mr. Zelensky, because Mr. Zelensky, since his powers has expired last May, and really it is very doubtful that if he will sign something, then it will be legitimate.
Is it one of your demands then that Ukraine holds a new presidential election?
Of course. Of course, they have to do, if it is a democratic state, and I understand here we coincide with Americans in view that elections should be done, and the really legitimacy of powers in this case with whom we are going to discuss issues, serious, and sign issues, that's a big question now.
Would it not be easier for them to hold elections if you were not occupying a large part of their country?
We do not interfere. This is internal affairs. How, when, and in what way these elections should be held. But anyway, I just described the situation and the difficulty which arises from this issue.
So just let me be clear about this. Until they've held an election, you will not talk peace with President Zelensky?
I wouldn't comment on this issue because what is the imperative is everybody feels that a sort of process should be started, and probably it has already. It is in a very initial phase. In what way the Kiev authorities will be involved into that, I do not know. Simply, I do not know the details. I cannot share it with you.
It sounds like Russia is laying down demands as if it had won this war, but you haven't won it, have you?
We have put our position. We are winning now. Ukraine is losing, definitely. Also, those countries in the West, including London, they are losing the position and the case for which they have tried to fight. I mean, in supporting Ukraine, being directly involved in this conflict. And, of course, this is a dynamic that we have now on the ground. And one should understand that from this dynamic, of course, what's going to happen, it's a negotiating process now.
But this was a 3-week war, you said.
3 week.
This was the promise from President Putin, that it was a 3-week special military operation. 3 years later, you still haven't won. Part of Russia is still occupied. You occupied more of Ukraine in 2022 than you do today. How is that winning?
It's a very different things. What happened in 22 when we have made a certain demonstration of forces over there, that was the idea to bring, to stay in peaceful conditions over there and to strike actually a good agreement which was nearly done in Istanbul if the Prime Minister of Britain will not ruin the whole deal. Probably he was not alone on that, but the result was the ruining the deal that was on the table, that was already initialed and was close to an agreement. If it has happened 3 years ago, then we will not go into a major war that what is happening right now.
But how can you say you're winning when part of Russia is still occupied by Ukrainian forces?
It is incomparable, I will say. The small piece of Russia where Ukraine is losing its best soldiers right now, and I think it is already around 50,000 of soldiers that has perished or being wounded in Kursk Oblast. That is, it's a matter of weeks or months. We still do not understand the nature of this operation, just to show us or to show to the Western world that they have certain strengths.
How much pressure is Russia under economically in terms of very high inflation, persistently high interest rates, manpower shortages?
Inflation is right now 8 or 8.5%. It is diminishing. 8% was in the UK 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So I wouldn't say that it's a great problem. In terms of development and GDP right now, so we are targeting 5% of growth of GDP. In comparison with the other countries of Big Seven, of course, it's significant leap forward than the others. So economy is, of course, it's difficult, I will say. We have to pay a lot for the war, but anyway, it has given sanctions and a lot of factors in the world has given quite a boost for the Russian economy, for the employment especially, and for development in the industrial branches underdeveloped before that.
How many soldiers has Russia lost in this war?
Well, it's a question to which no one can answer. It's only general staff is aware how many soldiers has been lost of each country, but everybody knows that the opposite side tend to exaggerate losses of the opposite side. So it is simply senseless to discuss this issue.
But the price has been high. Has it been worth it?
I think that the price is, of course, high, but we were on the brink of disaster, because if we will not have been intervened, then we have got an intervention on the Russian people in Donbass, Donetsk, and so far, and it could in any way, and I think that it has been admitted by all the sides that the conflict was unavoidable.
The European Union is planning a tribunal to prosecute crimes of aggression against Ukraine. Is that worrying the Russian leadership?
Well, you know, we have already not planned, but we set up a tribunal in Donetsk and Lugansk that is collecting information about crimes done by Ukrainian militaries, and some trials are already underway, and we are doing it already. And what's going to happen in the end of the day, we do not attach legitimacy to the efforts that are being done in the Council of Europe, for instance, which is trying to arrange different structures for the future prosecution. But I guess, in any way, if crimes have been committed, military crimes, then we follow them and we are bringing those who are accomplices to the trial.
But this will go further than war crimes. This will be a very specific crime of aggression against Ukraine.
I know only one tribunal, and that was about in 45 in Nuremberg tribunal. That was much more serious. You have done your reports from Oswestime. Recently, you haven't mentioned the role of the Red Army in liberating it, unfortunately.
I most certainly did, actually. But
really?
Yeah, in the context that President Putin hadn't been invited to this, and that this was strange, given the role of the Red Army.
It's a very important thing. It is very important because everybody should remember what has happened during the Second World War and the role and the deaths of the Soviet soldiers that has liberated Oswestime and liberated Europe, liberated Poland especially, and all that stuff.
Should we expect a summit meeting between President Trump and President Putin this year?
President Trump is speaking about that during his election campaign and further on, and of course, we never were against that. I think that we didn't commit to anything, but if there will be a serious thing to discuss, I'm sure that it is going to happen. I cannot say when, why, and how, but actually the general mood is for the high-level contacts, of course, in favor of the high-level contacts.
You've been offered Belgrade, Geneva. Are these sort of venues acceptable?
I heard about Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, and all the others, Belgrade, Geneva. The choice is up to the president, of course, to do that. It should be neutral countries, definitely. Switzerland stands now on the side of the West, supporting Kiev. I don't believe that it is feasible, but further I'm not going to speculate, although it is a very interesting topic, of course.
But in principle, President Putin is willing to meet President Trump quite soon in a neutral venue.
Please ask Mr. Putin or his spokesman. He can answer this question. I'm here in London, so I do not dispose all the information in place. But personally, I think it will be a good thing.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.